Ladies and gentlemen, namaskar. Welcome to the 15th edition of the Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Retold Banega Swasth India at Han Michalski Foundation, Beta. The festival brochure and flyer with details of the full program are available for purchase at the information desk. We are delighted to introduce our session where silence sings a rhythmic journey, Tripti Pandey, introduced by Malashri Lal. By Rima Hooja. Sorry, I apologize. The session will be a rhythmic journey of the desert, the musical clans, inheritance, their instruments, some legendary performers, the dance forms, the festivals, as well as the fading away of traditions like the Pabuji, Kipad, and puppetry. Can we have a round of applause for our speakers, please?
So since the clock has started now, Tripti ji, it's good to be together again on a stage. हमारे लिए यही क्यों काफी होता है. We have to get together and we have a ball. So,
Absolutely.
So looking forward to talking more about music
Yeah.
from the desert.
Yeah.
But you have got the title Sound of Silence.
Yeah. Where silence sings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what made you
Choose
that title.
Yeah.
You have a long history. So Tripti ji has been working with tourism, with music, with dance. If she says Gulabi, don't think she doesn't know that Gulabo's name is Gulabo. She knew Gulabi when Gulabi was a little girl and she first saw her dance in the Pushkar Dhauras. And I've seen Gulabi hug her in that. And so she's Gulabo Sapera to us, but she's Gulabi still to Tripti ji.
Oh, well, your first question, why did I choose silence when I'm talking of sound and I'm talking of rhythms? The idea to get silence to sing came up to me when I used to ramble in the desert. I used to drive to Jaisalmer, and suddenly from nowhere you'll hear a sound of satara, the double flute, drifting in the air. You will see a shepherd under a khejuri tree playing the instrument. You will see women singing on the road while constructing the road. And I said, this is my title, Where Silence Sings. Because you know, silence has so many sounds. When I say that, I get goosebumps myself. Because silence can be so vocal, so rhythmic, so resonant. It's only how the sounds filter to you. And so I said, in the desert, where silence sings, because the landscape was so barren. As the landscape gets barren, the music gets richer. So that is the whole idea, to talk about silence, where silence sings. It's only in the desert where the silence sings.
So the desert also is, there's a lot of color there. Though in reality you might have the color of the sand, the golden sand, or the yellow sand. A lot of people don't even see the gold in it. And you have the stark blue sky and that. But the humans put a lot of color, put a lot of music, put a lot of culture, put a lot of food, sound, everything.
You know, I came across a very good quotation from Lawrence Durrell, and he said, music was invented to confirm loneliness, the human loneliness. So I personally feel, in the barren landscape, just imagine those days when you did not have a telephone, you did not have a mobile in your hand, you were not playing with that, the keys of the mobile. You only had time and time and time. So what did you do? The human nature is such that you filled it with colors, and you introduce all the reds and oranges are our colors. You know, we delight in most colorful outfits, the Odanis. That's another subject that I've done a lot of work on. But music is very natural to us. Wherever we sit alone, I'm sure many of us say we are bathroom singers because that's your time to be alone. And you suddenly drift because it's human nature to sing. You know, I feel that the heart beats. That is the rhythm of us. The music is in us. How Surila or Besura we sing is a different thing, but we all like to sing.
So if you use that word sing, could you, for a couple of lines, from the desert, something that appeals to you? Just off the cuff?
There are 2, 3 things that, sir, we can go on endless conversation because I've done so much of work out there. Very famous song is, of course, Kesariya Balam, and we say Padharo Mare Desh. And I've had the opportunity of working with the
Allah
lady,
Jalai Bai.
Allah Jalai Bai, who was the court singer of Maharaja Ganga Singh of Bikaner. Before I get on to any of the songs, I want to tell you that I was the one who masterminded or created or visualized the festival called the Desert Festival in Jaisalmer. Now, I could have chosen the dates as per the regular calendar, the fixed dates, but I wanted the magic of the full moon on the sand dunes. So I chose the lunar calendar dates. That's how the Desert Festival dates shift. So I wanted the magic of Allah Jalai's voice on the sand dunes. We did our first pageant and her voice was there. But I also made her sit unwittingly on the seat, which was the coronation seat of the Maharaja of Jaisalmer. We just took over Jaisalmer with all the musical festival. And I told Allah Jalai Bhai, you will sit on that seat, the royal seat, not knowing that they're the king sat. And the Jaisalmer Walas came, and I said, look here, now she sat down. She's sitting there, and for us, she's the queen of the melody and the voice. If you heard her in the desert, her songs, even her recorded music, there's nothing like that. So what she sang was, of course, a difficult one, but I can just sing that. That was, Maruthare Des Me Nipja Teen Ratan. 3 jewels in the desert. Maruthare Des Me Nipja Teen Ratan. Ik dholo दूजी मरवण तीजो कसुमल रंग आओ मारे देश पधारो मारे देश जी केसरिया बालम आओ नी पधारो मारे देश.
Thank you. So Tripti ji, you've been the cultural ambassador for Rajasthan in that sense, because it's not just music. You've covered so much. I would like you to share the story about Karna Bheel and his mustaches with the audience.
That's very interesting. This is dacoit Karna Bheel. He was known for the longest mustaches at that point of time. He was also in the Guinness Book of Record, but before that, Karna used to play an instrument. That's an instrument which is now fading away. I think only 1 or 2 people would be playing. And Karna used to play a long flute, which was called Nad. And the magic of seeing, Rajasthan's music is not just listening to music or seeing the dances, it's a visual treat. So his mustaches twirled around on his cheeks. He sporting Shiv ki murti in his turban, and then he would play that, and then he used to also recite the verses. Now, Karna Bheel was a dacoit. So one day, he came to my house at night. He rang the bell, and he says, Hane, and Jaisalmer, they say, koi jagah nahi hai, idhar koi jagah nahi hai, where to stay? He had no place to stay. It was a winter night. And I said, what to do? And then I said, maybe you can sleep in the veranda. And my mother said, please, you can do anything, but don't let a dacoit sleep in the house. What you know, he was a dacoit, he was on parole, he came out, and I said, to me, he's just a musician, and he was a changed man. But another interesting thing, when I took him for the Guinness Book of World Record, he held, his mustaches were sort of unfolded, and one side I held this side, and the other side, the one foreigner, and he says, what is this time? Everybody used to be scared of me, and today all these women are holding my mustaches. I'd feel funny, what is this? What is this world coming to? So there are several anecdotes in my life. If I write about these musicians, again, it would be a different, there's so much of personal also. Those were different days when I did this festival, and I came through with the langas, the manganyars, the kalbilyas, gulabi, now gulabo. It's a different story, and Rima. What made me feel good? I worked with them, I got them upstage. On the stage, I was compared, so I used to present them. And finally, we worked towards Padma Shri of Alajalai Bai and also the Padma Shri journey of Gulabi. So a snake charmer from a street dancer collecting the alms like 50 paisa or 1 rupee in those days and coming to the president house and getting Padma Shri. And so many Kalbelias are performing today. So it's a whole revival of the Kalbelia community and I feel good about it.
Tripti ji, you also, I think you were the first to put the Manganiyas and Langas together on the same stage during a festival. So do you want to share that? Because they both are from the desert. They are different groups. They recognize each other's identity as being different. And they have certain instruments that are specific. But you put them together and you created an ensemble at that time.
Yeah, it was interesting because see today what you see as desert symphony, the symphony word to the folk music is a contradiction because I studied in Salzburg, so I know what symphony is. And the idea of bringing the musicians, it was like a riot of colors, a riot of rhythm, a riot of all the songs. So what we did was, when we asked the Manganiyars and Langas to come together, they were reluctant. They were not willing because their traditions are different. And not only that, Rima, their traditions are so different that a Langa does not get his daughter married into a Manganiyar family, or a Manganiyar girl doesn't get married to a Langa family. So these were totally different lots of Muslim musicians, but having their own identity and own culture. So when I made them come together, not only did we do this, there was a friend of mine and a theatre person whom you know. Actually, it was his idea, Himmat Singh, who put like little dots for me. Their Langas will sit, their Teratali will sit, their Manganiyars will sit. It was like a board. And then he said, you know, the colors don't look nice. Let's ask them to change the turbans. Now, this was a revolution there, because if you made them change their turban.
Which year are we talking about?
Decades back.
Okay.
79. Yeah. So, and we were all very young, freshly out from, and coming back from Austria, and they were thinking this lady is totally mad. And I said, no, but you tie it in your style, but change the color. Now, this was very big thing then. And getting them to perform together was a challenge because they don't have a notation, fixed notation. You have to guide them through your hand gestures. Tell them when to finish, when to begin, when to come together, when to cut out, you know. So it used to be a huge thing. For us, it was a real landmark of a situation, and I still feel very good about it because I have created something, Rima, whether I'm there or not there, but Desert Festival will be there in Jaisalmer.
You were with tourism, Rajasthan tourism, for a very long time, and you had the opportunity, or you gave the opportunity to a lot of these musicians to travel through India and also travel outside of India. So was it difficult to do that? Because you did it once for this at this smaller scale, and then I think it took off from there. What about with the foreign trips and the food and all of it for them?
You see, it became very interesting. Most of these shows came to them in a private capacity because people heard them, people invited them. And so one event, you remember, we were in London together. And this was hilarious because we were all put up in houses, different homes. And because these chaps don't eat anything non-Indian, and the Muslims have a problem with the meat as well, whether it is jhatka or halal, you know it very well. And not only that, when the Kalbelias cooked for them, they did not want to eat because they said Kalbelias were the lower community. To them, they were street performers. But for me, it was something very special. I told them, I'm a Brahmin, and if I can eat of their hand, why can't you eat? What is the problem? And then we came together. There used to be a community cooking. Everybody ate, and I think that was a big change. And today you also hear Kalbelias getting married to foreigners. And one of them, I don't want to name, is also married to a Langa as well.
So that change has come.
Yeah, absolutely.
That change has come. There is a lot we can talk about, but we want some time for the questions.
Yeah.
You have seen the time where you would be ringing up the musicians because there were no cell phones. Places didn't have even phones for trunk calls.
Yeah.
So how are messages being sent? I know I have an answer to it. I want you to share it.
It was interesting because we were so much in, we did not have this word called event managers and all that. We were visualizers. We were the imaginative lot coming, creating something. Now we wanted these artists desperately. There was no mobile. So we booked a call, trunk call, lightning call. Now it's your generation next, so many of you would not even know. So they would say, now for Tera Tali, they live in Padarla. Huh? So the call would get through till Pali. Thereafter they say, line is not functional, it is out, it may not be through till tomorrow morning. So we will call the Thana and tell them, please go to this village and bring these artists, and we got them. I would say it was some journey, but we really enjoyed it because it was not that easy. It was difficult. And that difficulty really was like working in the desert, bringing the musicians together and performing and comparing and knowing their lives, working so closely. They're like Tera Tali, you don't even get to see today so well, what we used to see traditionally. Now you only see Langas and Mangadiars and my Kalvilias.
So to some extent, they got platforms then. Some forms are not so popular anymore. But as you just said, people will think of Langas and Maganiyas and Western Rajasthan and the desert areas. But there's music everywhere. So
I would say yes, because see, Alwar is very rich with the Mave community. Their music, the bhapang, the single string instrument, and the Maves used to sing, they're all Muslims. Very interestingly, I have always, in my book, Where Silence Sings, interestingly, I must say it is out of edition though, I would come up with the second version of whatever, we'll talk about it. But it is interesting, I went on to Amazon yesterday to see if the book was there. And that book, which was priced at $999, was selling for 3,500 something. I felt good at least, whether I get the copyright situation or not. But the story of Maves, I unfolded in that book as well. And what I said in my book was, music knows no boundaries. Music knows no religion. Music of Rajasthan also cuts across without your knowing the lyrics. Though I would always insist upon people to know the lyrics, because our lyrics are unfolding a huge tradition. When did they sing Kalali? When did they sing the songs of marriages? Or Mehndi? When did they sing the song of Mehndi? When did they sing the songs of Gangor? So, this, unless you know the lyrics, all you would hear is the sound, or you would hear just the beat, or you would be charmed by his looks. But I, as a compere, as a presenter, always made it a point to translate the songs and also bring the essence to you.
So you are thinking of another copy or another edition of this book, or will you be doing something else now, so many years later?
I would love to do another book, because my vision has, obviously we all evolve, we all also see changes coming in. There are changes. There are, from the sands of Rajasthan, they moved to the Coke studio. So there is a huge journey. So I have to reflect upon many things when I do the book. It would be there. A lot of would be also to remember the people who played, who were special people. And those who you would not remember. My idea is to make, this is history, that you should know Allah Jalai Bai, you should know Gulabi as Gulabi, you should know Sakar Khan as Kamaicha Manganyar, you should know all these stalwarts, otherwise Ajim and Aladdin from Mohangarh, who, that Murla and Surinda. Now very few people play. Your nephew is sitting here, he would know that. And so I personally think that my book would happen, but you and I know we need a publisher.
That too.
So we have to convince a publisher, and then we have to see how it goes. But I can announce one thing here today. I have, of course, my elephant book is there, which is also a cultural book. It was published by Penguin. And it is called India's Elephants, a Cultural Legacy, a winner of the best book in the category of art and coffee table.
You're wearing your elephant today.
And I'm wearing my elephant today. I would never give up. And also that I have signed a contract for my historical fiction, my dear friend.
Wow, congratulations. Thank you for sharing the news first with us here.
Yeah, and I hope to bring it next year to the JLF. I hope so, I get the chance. And it should be out at the end of the year, or maybe the first edition there. I would rather see it out this year.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. I think maybe we have time for a quick question before they tell us time is up. Anyone would like to ask Tripti ji something? We have time for more than one quick question. Otherwise, we will just keep going till you have your questions coming up. So the choice is entirely yours. I think while they are still thinking of this. So, Tripti, when you grew up in Jaipur, you grew up knowing that this music exists, but you were not exposed to Rajasthani folk music in quite the same way. You knew the songs which are sung at festivals, in Jaipur perhaps, or in other parts. But this sound of the desert, how did you first react to it, and what made you total divana of it?
You see, I was coming from Austria and I was in Salzburg, the land of music. And my mind was churning, we have to do a music festival. We have to do something. Something has to happen. And suddenly, one fine morning, this idea of desert festival came in my head. And I said, this has to be the lunar dates. I went in search of music. I traveled from Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, Barmer, and Rekiti, ambassador then, through the nights, spotted the musicians, worked together, rehearsed on the sand dunes, sometimes forgetting the chapatis in Jaisalmer, bringing only sabji to some sand dunes, sending back somebody, sometimes not having a brush or toothpaste, and doing the night rehearsals on the sand dunes. So it was divangi to the extent, because there is romance in the desert. And there is romance in music. There is so much dance. The element of dance gets little out. These days it is a Holika time. And Chaitri Mela will start. It is also linked with harvest. The Gair festival will start. Farmers will dance with the Gair dances. You will not just know agitating farmers. You will also know the dancing
For those of you
farmers.
who don't know Gair, it's got a very long stick, not just the short ones of the dandiya.
Yeah. Long sticks, and not just, no women dancing.
All the men.
All the men dance with lovely robes, big swirling kind of jama and angarkha, which they call Angi Gir. So there are several villages and they compete through the nights and they have several types of gairs being performed. It's also the time to celebrate harvest. So culturally you discover so much through music and dance. Only if you try to know more, that there are festivals, there is harvest, there are so many things to it.
So the Ordnis, you made a collection. I know you did exhibitions. You did more with that. Did that also come out of the music tradition you were looking at as you saw the women? Or was it separate?
No, it came together because I was searching. Initially, I wanted to say, okay, I have this funny feeling in living traditions that I think, it tells a story. I must put it together. Maybe I collect the safas, and I saw the changing traditions. Then the safas were collected by these great museums like Jodhpur and all these places. I said, oh no, let me work on Ordnis. It's a women's
Elizabeth
tradition.
Simpson. You remember she used to come and collect?
Yeah. And this was, Ordni was, I said, this is women's subject, let me do this. And I started seeing that from cotton to synthetic, from tie and dye to printed, from colors to nice yellow and red, the Pile ka pomcha, which is given for the son's birth. So I collected all those and I said, Ordni is not merely a fabric. It is not merely a technique. It is a whole storyboard of a woman's life in the desert. And that turned out to be my exhibition through the Whale in Germany and in Hungary. It went as a part of India Festival, and it is a song as well. There are several songs that Mara Lariara.
Let's have one.
No, the other one was this one that I can say, which somebody sang recently also. Baisara Bira Jaipur ja jo sa, Baisara Bira Jaipur jai jo sa, Vat se lai jo Tarari chunri, Baisara Bira Jaipur ja jo sa.
Wow. I put down the mic to clap that one. So music is now, it must have always been in your soul, but I think Rajasthan's music is now something that you live and breathe all the time.
Yes, because I must tell you, I was a dancer at heart. I did a lot of dancing in college, so I used to hear a lot of songs to go with. It was not that time where you had the recorded music. We had the musicians singing. And I must tell you, once in Indo-German society, I danced and Allah Jalai Bhai sang Sagar Pani Bharba Jaunsa. And that was something, you know. So it was something very special. So now I feel music very strongly. I'm also worried about so-called Coke studio versions, too much synthetic texture coming in. Sometimes I worry, sometimes it's great for them to make money. And also the patronage. The patrons have to listen to lyrics. You can't just reduce the whole repertoire of 1 billion songs to 4 songs. Acha, no, just sing Kesariya, just sing Hichki, just sing Gorban, and Nimuda, Nimuda, Nimuda. That is it. You know, you have so many songs. Yeah, please.
So, yes, now we have the questions coming.
So as you said that you have taken folks artists to international countries. So especially in Western countries, when you take them, they might get uncomfortable, or there is huge cultural difference, and they might get nervous. So is there any such story, and how do you deal with such scenarios?
Very interesting, because I have had several stories. One story was this, these musicians are very, raw in their mannerism and culture. So first thing in their head comes how to make more money by their foreign trip. So at the end of the day, they could sell their instrument. Now this chap, our dholwala, the dholi is from Jodhpur, and I asked him in the evening, please come for the show, and he said, I can't play today. I said, why? I sold my dhol. I said, do you realize, where did you sell? Without any language, who did you sell? Then he gave me some odd figure, and I said, do you realize this dhol came on the flight? How much you could have made out of this money if you only would have informed me? Then he says, please, now you get back my dhol from him. I said, how can I negotiate this? One. Second, one of them goes near Eiffel Tower, and suddenly the artist say, I can't say it in Hindi because it will be funny. So he said, Vaisi, just see, what is he doing? He used the wayside loo near Eiffel Tower. I said, oh God, I only hope nobody sees and finds him and makes him stay back. So that was one story. There are several stories of these musicians. Once one of them had, all these Muslims. These chaps had very good meat here, Hindu-Muslim fun game happening between them, no fight. And they said, very delicious. They made the langas eat the pig, the pork. Now they told him. And they said, what? Now what do I do? I said, now you cannot do anything. Just say, Holy God, pardon me. Now I cannot help anyway. So these are the things, you bring them together. You find peace, like our cooking story. They can be uncomfortable, but they can be overambitious. They can take you for a ride as well. Like he's selling the dhol and me running into trouble that I can't present my musician. But at the end of the day, we all understand you have to come together. That's it.
I think there are two hands. So the one at the back and then in front.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hey.
My name is Megha, and I run a Etsy store where I sell Indian folk dance costumes. So many times I got this query from the customers that you are selling these Kalbelia dance costumes, but we have heard that only the snake community can design these costumes. So I wanted to understand कि as you told, इन लोगों की लाइफस्टाइल के अंदर ये फैशन डिज़ाइन कॉन्सेप्ट कैसे इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ कि इन्होंने किस तरीके से अपने फैशन को डिज़ाइन किया कि अब ऑल द होल वर्ल्ड नोज कि they can only design the authentic Kalbelia costumes.
You see, whole world also knows Kalbelia. That also is the interesting thing. The thing is this, when they are performing to make little money and to attract attention. When I saw Gulabi, she was a young teenager girl to my mind. She may say anything, but she must be around 12 something, because 3 years later she went with us to London and she was expecting a child without telling us. This is another story. We took her only to discover that she was in family way, and then we had to look after her. But on their costumes, they obviously had a lot of bead jewelry, which they sort of stuck onto their costume. And they wanted to attract the attention of the villagers. When Gulabi was performing, when I saw her, she was all decked up with all this attire, only that because they could sort of attract the attention of their audience, those were the villagers. So that was their style of costume. That is sure, that they wore that long kurti kind of a blouse, and they also appliqued. Good old days, they hand appliqued. Today, they are all getting it machine stitched. Now it is little Arabian as well, if you notice it, because that was the time that belly dancing came in, and a lot of belly dancers started learning Kalbelia dance. And internationally, they know the Kalbelia dance, because now we don't have only Kalbelias dancing Kalbelias dance. We have Belgians dancing Kalbelia, we have Latin Americans dancing Kalbelia, we have foreign version of Kalbelia dance. So that's why they say internationally they want to have this Kalbelia dress, because black became symbolic, and of course, quite a bit of our attitude to tell them that they were snake charmers. So the black became popular like that.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hi.
Ma'am, actually, I have experienced a shift in culture. Like, there has been times where people have been actually representing themselves as a very proud, as people who are very proud of their tradition and their cultures and costumes. But I've also found at the same time that people have been shifting their cultures with time, and they no longer acknowledge their true identity as their people, as the culture they are born with, because there are not a lot of people coming all together to form the same kind of a lane, to find the culture driven in a more fierce manner. So I think that, so ma'am, what do you think that why is this culture getting influenced with time?
So you see, change is relentless. It's an ongoing process. We all change. And so do the folk musicians. It is strange that I see them now in sometimes the langas and manganiyas wearing the torn jeans during the day. I cannot recognize them. And my strict rule is, please do not come to meet me like this. If you have to come to meet me, wear your long kameez, wear your ajraka pattu, that kind of a shawl that they wear, or in winters the pattu, and come like that. But because I insist on that, even Gulabi, when she first returned, she was wearing a short dress, sorry to say, but like yours. You are fine with that dress, I'm not pointing out. But I am just saying that they also like to say, yes, we have upgraded, we have arrived. So we wear these dresses. But when I see the Manganiyars, you could see them even in the JLF during the day, when they are not performing, that you could see them in all these Western costumes, that you cannot even recognize them. I would like them to wear, when they are at least appearing publicly. At home, they can wear whatever, because that gives them a very strong identity, and they are highly accepted, and they are being loved for it.
So I think the question answer, or even just hearing you, we can carry on, but we've run out of time. So one of the changes is that we can't go back in time, we have to go forward.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Tripti
a
ji.
lot.
This has been brilliant.
Thanks a
Always
lot.
a pleasure to be with you on the stage.
Thanks a lot. She's my very dear friend, and we go back in time. To the extent she's so close to me that she's also my neighbor. Yes. So, एक ही गांव एक ही मोहल्ला.
Thank you to a well-known cultural ambassador of Rajasthan, Tripti Pandey, and archaeologist, historian, heritage consultant Rima Hooja for this beautiful rhythmic journey. We thank Hawthornden Literary Retreat for their support for this session.